Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Eli Camp, and this is my podcast, Vital Wisdom. This is where I talk about health, wellness, raising children, homesteading, and lots of other topics, all from a vitalistic perspective. I believe the body can heal itself if it's given what it needs, is not poisoned, and if the innate healing ability is supported and not suppressed. It's my intention to bring what I have learned in my life, especially in the 24 years that I've been either training or practicing to be a physician, to help you be your own best doctor. This episode is part of a 12-part series where I and one of my mentors, Dr. Letitia Dick-Kronenberg, talk about what we call the axioms of naturopathic medicine, of holistic medicine, really, of vitalistic medicine. Each axiom can really be thought of as a law of natural healing, and they guide a naturopathic doctor in the practice of their medicine. They're not often discussed, but they're critical for understanding how the body becomes and stays healthy. Or on the reverse side, when they're violated, how a body shows signs of illness. Thanks for joining me and enjoy the episode.
Hey, welcome everybody to another Vital Conversation. This is Dr. Letitia Dick, President of NMI, with Dr. Eli Camp and Vice President. And we're talking about axioms and the laws of nature cure, basically. We're again here, we're working on, I think this is number 7 axiom. Today we're going to talk about the law of dual effect, or law of compensation. And as we go through these, I just love doing this with you, Eli, because we learn so much from each other and pick more apart about Lindlar's textbooks and all the learnings that we have gathered through the years from hearing Dr. Jim Sensenig speak and Dr. Jared Zeff speak and our mentors. So it's great that we can bring this forward for the next couple generations of folks.
Yes, and then y'all are going to keep it going, keep paying it forward on down the line, right? This is important stuff. It's important stuff.
It's really important stuff because this is the philosophy that gives language to the science. It's the reason that we do the medicine that we do in the way that we do it. And that's unique to us. That's unique to naturopathic medicine. Other healing arts can claim that they use the therapeutic order. And they can. But this is what's unique to our medicine, completely unique to naturopathic medicine.
Yes, it is. So the law of dual effect, the axiom of compensation, is that how we're saying it?
Yeah, I have it listed as dual effect / axiom of compensation. Maybe that could be wordsmith better. But that's how Dr. Sensenig had first written it out. And I know all these axioms cross over to other axioms, and so they fit so tightly together. So you could say, well, it might be part of homeopathy, or might be, well, that's true. All of these modalities can be part of this. That's why we talk about them this way.
And why we're not talking about a list of modalities.
Correct.
The modalities are tools, but you have to have rules of how and why and what you use tools for. So for those of you who are homeo nerds, because I know I've recruited a number of you to our group, this is, in homeopathy, we call it the primary and secondary response, which as soon as I started talking this morning, I realized, oh, okay, I know this rule, this law of nature.
Yeah. And I think that's interesting because we know this and we apply this law all the time. It's just that we've never really codified or identified it as a separate thing because there it is again, it's hard to separate it out. But this is a natural reaction of the human body, of nature. You can see this in nature all the time. So
So what is
basically,
it? Yeah.
yeah, so basically, for every action, right, there's an equal and opposite reaction. That's a law of physics. That's the law of dual effect. So for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So it's like a pendulum. It's like that little thing with the little pendulum balls. You hit one, and then on the other side, the other one goes, and then
Yep.
they back, and then the other one swing. So it has that effect, and so you just wait for the pendulum to come back. And so it's if you, I think I get stuck here with speaking sometimes. I stutter. So Jim would say every agent affecting the human organism produces two effects. First, a temporary effect, and a second lasting effect. And I know we see that in homeopathy all the time.
We do.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah.
I just prescribed yesterday for a gal who has had headaches for 3 months. Solid. No
Mm.
respite at all. She had all the
Mhm.
tests, everything's fine, no one knows what's wrong, whatever. It was a belladonna headache, right? All over the head, throbbing pain, behind the eye. She was thirsty, she was restless, she couldn't lay down flat, she had to recline when she laid down. Light was worse. uh Typical belladonna headache. I give it to her, the headache, right? So I give her the remedy. What happens? This is it. Her headache got worse.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
then the body responded. And what did it do? It evened it out. Her headache went away for the first time in 3 months.
Wow.
Right. And
Yes.
like now, I sent it home with her. I said, I don't think it's a one dose kind of thing. I think it's going to take a week or so before we work this out of your system. And you may have to go up in strength, but that's it. It was action and then the opposite reaction, the pendulum swinging back.
Right.
It
Right.
happens every day, right? I know
Yeah.
it does for you, for any nature cure doctor, every single day.
Right. Right. And that's part of when you're doing a series of constitutional hydrotherapies and people go into a healing reaction. It's like they get a little worse before they get better. And you can relate this to Herring. I didn't think about this till now. Herring's law of cure is related to this because you bring back you go in the reverse order of the way things happen. So it's particularly when I'm doing hydrotherapy on somebody, they'll go, oh my God, I feel this symptom coming up again. This is just like when, and I go, aha. So now we're back to that time frame. But I always tell people, listen, it won't be as bad and it won't last as long because they always get afraid. It's like, I can't go into that again. I ended up in the hospital last time. It's like, that won't happen. You're just recreating the old condition. We're bringing that back to the surface. The body can now heal that, and the symptoms will not last as long and they will not be as severe. And if you keep that in mind and keep working with the body and supporting it to heal, that'll happen. But that's part of the dual effect. They get that healing reaction that happens.
And then it's
Um,
gone, right? I mean,
and
then
it's
it goes
gone.
like in homeopathy, same thing, return of old symptoms.
Right.
It feels like you have a UTI, you don't have a UTI. And when you get through this, you won't have this anymore.
Yeah, you won't get the chronic infections again. You won't get although, yeah, exactly, exactly.
Mhm.
So you can see it quickly, or you can see it more spread out over
Mhm.
time. So just know that there's that pendulum, it's swinging, and it might take a long swing, or it might be a quick swing.
Mhm.
So, but that's the dual effect.
Now
Yeah,
think about this law as used allopathically. It's the same law at play.
right. It is.
It's the same law at play. It's so, oh my goodness, I don't, should we even think about that? Like they are doing it opposite.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the action on the body is to mute that symptom. Well, the pendulum's going to swing back and that symptom is going to come back and be louder and stronger and lasting.
Exactly, exactly. So when I have this psoriasis patient I'm seeing now, this little gal, and she's been on the immunosuppressant drug, but she wants off. She's like, I have to get off. And I said, okay, what's going to happen? You're going to get a flare. You're going to feel terrible, but hang with us because it's going to start healing. So we knew it as soon as she stopped that suppressive medication, right? Head to toe, just red, screaming, angry skin, and dosing her with remedy, got hydrotherapy going. She's got the right diet going. It's now been about 2 weeks, and she came in, she goes, look at my skin. It's calmed down, it's healing. It's like, I go, yeah, see, just, I knew it. I knew you just had to stick with it. And now you're going to heal this completely. You won't ever have to have psoriasis again. And she was so excited, you know, and she's potato intolerant and been eating a potato forever, right? So it's really neat, but that is true. And be aware of that if you're taking people off allopathic drugs, that's pendulums coming back, and you got to be ready for it. I didn't think about this till we're talking about this now. I take people off antihypertensive medications a lot, and I always tell them, listen, when you're tapering off that drug, and we've got you on these botanicals to support and start healing the problem with the kidneys and the liver and the heart condition, you're going to get a rebound blood pressure spike. Hang with that. Okay, just call me if you're feeling terrible. We can work with it with different homeopathics and things, or fasting. It's fasting. But just know, if you take your blood pressure, you're going to get a rebound. So, and that happens for about 24, 48 hours, and then we've got it under control.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So
as a side note, I have to say it. So the very first time that I preceptored and shadowed Dr. Sensenig, someone came in a hypertensive crisis. And I was freaking out. Like, all I knew is the brain was going to explode, right? It's just, I thought, and he got them on the table and he said, no, it's fine. Put them on the table face down and did some kind of move along their calf up towards the top. Turns out there's baroreceptors in the calf, and I didn't know that. Towards the knee, so the fossa in the back to the knee, did that 3 or 4 times on both legs, had them sit there, sat up, blood pressure normalized.
Dang, I didn't know that trick.
Me either. And so I was telling Dr. Mona Morstein about it, and she's like, that shouldn't work. Why does that work? She's actually the one that went digging, and she said there has to be a baroreceptor in that area, and there is. It's right in the middle of the calf. It's an acupuncture point. I don't remember which one it is, but our body's so smart, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, how did Jim know that?
I don't know. He learned it from somebody. I think he learned it from one of the osteopaths that he studied the biodynamic osteopathy with. But just like that, he was calm as a cucumber. He's like, no, we're not sending them to the ER. We'll just get that down.
Yeah.
What are you going to do to get it down? Doesn't he need like a lot of like an IV drug right now? He's like, no.
Right. Yeah. Well, my favorite thing, just for that hypertensive crisis, first thing I do is give people a 42 cocktail, which is that aloe wormwood mix, which is so bitter, that opens the emunctory, opens the liver. And then you decrease the pressure, because the heart is trying to push hard to get blood through the liver area, because they ate something wrong, or that's all jammed up and stuck, basically. So there's so much blood pooling there, and the pressure's building. So if you can release the pressure on the liver with the bitter herbs, then the blood pressure comes down. Well, so I give a 42 cocktail. I usually get them on the hydrotherapy table, start doing that hot and cold contrast, put the electrical stim through the spinal reflexes there. open those emunctories up, and then I'm, dosing whatever remedy I need to dose based on the symptoms, whether they're dizzy or their headache or who knows what.
Mhm.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
It is. It is. What do? I usually prescribe a remedy, and it works pretty good, but it's not long lasting,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And then I didn't really think about the congestion in the liver
Hmm.
being by releasing that pressure.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard that before, but it
Usually there's, with hypertension, we always think there's a weakness in the kidney or the heart that's causing it, and that could be the underlying issue. But in the crisis, what has happened is they've eaten something or done something that has stagnated the digestive system. And so the blood is pooling at that hepatic flexure, and the heart's pushing hard to get blood through there, and it can't get, because there's a blockade, right? So it's pushing hard, and that raises the pressure up. And so if you can, like Drano, you open the drain
yeah.
and you can get the liver to dump. It's a bile dump. It's not just a bile dump. It's like the blood starts flowing through the liver better. Then you release the pressure, and you can immediately bring down a hypertensive situation.
I wonder if that's why folks who are struggling with gallbladder issues and forming bile and gallstones have a tendency to have their blood pressure run higher, because it's interesting.
Yeah, it's usually dietary related. They're usually eating something, too heavy. Or alcohol's involved or something. It was too much for the metabolism, and then they're in that crisis. Yeah. Yeah.
Which is why Nux vomica is a frequent remedy for that, right? It
Yes.
repertorizes. Well, I don't ever think Nux vomica hypertensive crisis, but it often repertorizes very well. And it's very quick acting, but it's a liver. I mean, it acts on the liver.
The liver thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Open that hepatic flexure, and that will make a big difference with hypertensive
We should do
issues.
this every week. I learned so much when I hang out with you. My goodness.
Uh, there's so
So
much to share and learn, right?
there are, you have any more of those cool quotes?
Oh, let's see. I already said that one. Okay. The side effect of the drug is the effect. In a small dose, it has one effect. In a larger dose, a different effect. You can stimulate or you can suppress using the same herb, drug, or substance, depending upon the dosage. So there's another aspect here to dual effect with that. So small dose has one effect, large dose has a different effect.
Mm-hmm.
And that's seen in pharmaceutical drugs too. We know that too,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? So, you can use an herb to suppress or you can use it to stimulate, depending upon the dosage. Yeah. So,
Did the eclectic herbalist talk about this law?
I think they did. I was going to go back through the Thomsonian notes and I didn't get there, but I believe they talked a lot about that herbal dosing, and how to differentiate when to use a larger dose or lesser dose. And Thomsonian used pulse and tongue to do that, I believe. There was another book I read that used pulse and tongue to determine the dosages of the botanicals. That was one of the books that we NMI actually digitalized, right? And we put it into our.
I think it's up in the book. Yeah, it's in the book collection, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we had questions about what does this kind of dosing mean? What did they mean by this?
Mm-hmm.
This SIG? Yeah. So it's occurring to me that the same split happened, for those of you who don't know, the same split happened within the herbalist's profession, where you had a main group, the majority of herbalists were using plants in a certain way. And then you had this smaller subset. And I'm wondering if it's almost like the vitalists or the nature curists of the naturopathic profession in this smaller group, uh, 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 philosophically or
Mm,
using the medicine in a certain way. And the eclectic herbalists, well, they were eclectic physicians, right? It wasn't just
right,
herbalists. Yeah.
right. Yeah, the eclectics used fasting. They used other modalities. Yeah, but they had a particular way they used the botanicals.
Right.
So
Small,
yeah,
small amounts.
small amounts, and they use toxic herbs in small doses, like dose dropping aconite and so forth. And just as a stimulant in a formula, they had ways of doing things like that. And it's interesting to think about the herbal medicine with that divergent in practice also.
Yeah.
And I see that still in naturopathic medicine. I was taught to use herbs to support and heal. I use nutritive. Was taught to use herbs like nutrition,
Mm-hmm.
and now I think it's being taught more as drug actions. Like, we know this has alkaloids, or this has, atropine constituents, or this, so
Mm-hmm.
we're using it for what has been analyzed and what we think is the active component of the herb. We're using it as a drug.
Yes.
And I was never taught that way. And so I have to rethink herbs when people talk to me that way. I use them as these herbs go in combination well,
Mm-hmm.
like cactus and hawthorn married together, or you use mullein and comfrey, or mullein, and so are you using an herb to moisturize? Are you using it to dry? Are you using it to warm or to cool? That's a whole different way of thinking than the active constituent of the herb. And so I think when we use more the eclectic herbal way of supporting organ systems with botanicals, I'll say it that way. I think that you don't get the big pendulum swings like you might have with a drug like prescription.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because the herbalist then knew how to balance the formula, right? So if you look at some of these old formulas, Thomsonian formulas and things, you're thinking, well, that's really drying and cool. You wouldn't want to use that in a situation where you want something warming, but actually they were balancing the herbs out, so you didn't have that big swing and like giving a high powerful dose of some herb. So it's interesting to see through the years how herbal medicine has changed to more, I'll call it more allopathic prescribing.
Mm-hmm.
um,
Sure. I don't want to stop the cough. I want to relieve the congestion in the chest. I don't
right.
want
I don't
anti-cough.
want to moisturize the tissues, and I want to support the immune system there, right? So you're not using herbs as a cough suppressant at that point.
Well, and further evidence is that when you give something and you're expecting it to immediately stop a symptom, you have a clue that you're actually not using the law of dual effect or compensation properly. So if the body's warming itself, it's warming itself for a reason. You just use fever. It's such a simple example. It's warming itself for a reason. And
Mhm.
if you stop it, then you're going to get the opposite effect ultimately, right? That you want. So if we're using this law, this axiom, then we want to help the body be a little bit warmer. And then the body will respond and will
Right,
cool itself off because of that dual effect, right? I'm
right.
thinking about this acutely, even not just chronically.
Well, this makes sense, what you just said. So when you have someone with a fever, say you have a child with 103 temp, you give them Tylenol or something, you're suppressing the fever. When the Tylenol wears off, the fever goes higher, right?
Right.
You get that compensation, and now the body's like, oh, heck no, now we're going to go here. And
Yes.
so you make, and then the parents freaking out because now the temperature is 104 when it was
Give more
102.
Tylenol.
Right. So it's yeah, that's that rebound compensation that occurs with suppression. And when you work with the body, you don't have that. If you're fasting that child, you're giving the right remedy, the body has the power and ability to fight that infection and inflammation naturally. It'll naturally go through that process. The fever burns off, and then the balance comes back, and then the child is better.
I read that in the Hippocratic collection of writings, I don't know who wrote it, that the way they handled fever, and this is ages ago, like
Yeah.
they would
Thousand.
pack them in warm clay. They would heat clay and put the body in the warm clay. And the author of the treatise in the Hippocratic writings said, this is us assisting the body in what it's already trying to do. That was what they said. The
Yeah.
body's warm. Okay, how can we help it? Eat
Right.
warm clay. Isn't that cool?
Yeah. That's really neat. That's really neat. Yeah, what we do with the really high fever with hydrotherapy is you wrap the child like in a Spanish mantle, which
Mm-hmm.
is a cold cloth covered in wool, which is heating. And so that the body's actually heating that up, causing that expansion of that energy and drying that sheet out. And in that, the temp, if you have a helicopter mother and she's monitoring the child's temperature,
Going up.
it goes up. Yeah. So there, you already have a child with 104, 105 temp, it goes up to 106,
Mm-hmm.
but then it comes down
Mm-hmm.
and often breaks the fever completely or comes down to about 101.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's
How
it's
often can you repeat the Spanish mantle in a
no, I've done it maybe within 10 to 12 hours of each
okay.
other. Usually you only have to do it once, and then you're just fasting that child and managing the 101 temp. Sometimes then you do the cold socks on the feet,
Mm-hmm.
so they can rest or sleep better, or just the basic home hydrotherapy or the constitutional hydrotherapy. But usually only have to do the Spanish mantle once. I've done it maybe a couple times with like spinal meningitis or something. We've repeated it maybe in 10 hours,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. Yeah.
And yes, spinal meningitis can be treated through
Yes.
nature cure, just so you all know.
Done it a few times. It's a little unnerving. Did it on my own child. My daughter
Ooh,
had spinal meningitis. Yeah.
bravery. That's true bravery. I freak out. I'm not a helicopter mom, but I lose every single shred of everything I ever learned in medical school. I lose all my clinical experience, and I'm just focused on my kid and what do I need to do?
Well, as you know, it's the hardest thing to treat our own family. It
Yes.
is the hardest thing. And at that moment, I couldn't think. I called Jared.
Okay.
I
So
go, Jared, what do I do? He says, Belladonna, 200C, Spanish mantle. Duh. Okay. I couldn't, because you panic with your own family and you just cannot. Everything's like, I don't know.
yes,
It's
yes.
so hard. That's the hardest thing, is to treat your own family. It really, really is. It's hard to be objective. It's hard to have your wits about you. Yeah, it's okay. Call somebody.
Right, right.
Yeah.
When I do the homeopathy talk and I'm talking about this particular axiom, I have had so many instances of docs coming up after the talk and saying, because these particular talks that I'm doing are at medical schools where they still have a homeopathy elective, or there's just
Ah,
interested in it, right?
yeah.
They'll come up to me and they'll say to me, well, that makes so much sense. Why are we not doing that? Could we do that with pharmacy? And I was like, why would you want to do it with pharmacy when there's so many other things that you could do? But I don't know. This was a conversation that Jim and I had. Could you use a pharmaceutical and stay in compliance with the law of compensation? Like, could you do that?
Yes, I think you can.
Oh, okay.
And this is a cool conversation. I've thought many times about making homeopathic remedies of pharmaceutical drugs and using it homeopathically in a small dose. Actually, that's what Hahnemann did. I mean, that's how Hahnemann discovered this whole thing,
Yes.
right?
Right.
So it's like I believe we could take, just throwing this out there, that you could take a chemotherapy drug, make it into a homeopathic form. Why not?
Mm. Mm.
I don't know. I mean,
Well,
these
you'd have to do the proving.
you'd have to do the proving. Yeah, you'd have to do the proving.
Mhm.
I have made homeopathic medications from things like Novocaine or Streptocaine.
Mhm.
I've had patients who react to dental anesthesia,
Yep.
and their heart starts pounding and they're sweating and they feel terrible. They might feel like they're going to throw up, and it's just from the reaction of the medication.
Mhm.
And so I had a dentist gave me a thing of streptocaine,
Mhm.
which I pulled out with a syringe and made into a remedy. And I have that stock remedy in my clinic. Anytime I have somebody coming in with from a dental procedure where they've had any kind of Novocaine like substance, I'll
Mhm.
use this streptocaine remedy and I'll just put a couple drops under their tongue, and suddenly the heart stops bounding and their blood pressure normalizes and their head stops ringing or whatever's going on. So I have done that a couple times with a pharmaceutical, and it works to correct the severe reactions from the pharmaceutical.
Could
But
you kick it up a notch just a little bit, your effect, and then you get the response, right? You kick it up just a little and then the body responds. And it's like, oh, hey, yeah. Okay, there's
hey,
some.
yeah, now the liver can manage that stuff and clear it through,
Mhm.
or the kidneys now can clear it through, or and I don't know if that's what open the emunctories up with that remedy, like cures like. So
Mhm. I made a remedy once for a gal with mold. So same thing. I was
yeah.
trying to utilize this Axiom, right? And I thought, okay, so having such a problem with this mold she was exposed to. Get me some of the mold, we'll potentize it, and it was curative for her. And I did
Nice.
that with everybody, but there wasn't a clear case. It was like she
Yeah.
had her case was that mold. Like it was.
Right.
So we and what happened? She got worse, and then the body effect, it counteracted
Yeah,
that.
counteracted. Yeah. Um, the last quote from Jim was, "There is always a compensation by the body as it brings itself into balance." This is exactly what we just said. He says, "The question is, are you bringing up the vital force of the patient to a higher level of being?"
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. Are you bringing, is it coming into balance at a higher level of vitality than before? Or did you suppress it and now it's down here, but is balanced? So bring that person up to a higher level of vitality. Yeah. Yeah. But that compensation by the body, it's really amazing to see it. Yeah.
So we see it. Well, we also see the opposite. Like, what does the opposite of this look like? The opposite of this looks like someone who continues. Here's my guess. They continue to have symptoms. Nothing ever really clears up, and you have to keep adding other things on to control the symptoms that keep coming up. To me, that's when you're not employing this law of dual effect, this axiom of compensate. That's when you're not applying it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Agree?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's because now that rebound symptom came back, and so you use a stronger drug. to suppress it, or stronger thing.
Mhm.
And then you've got more, the side effect is the effect. And so you now think and that's why you end up with people with like 5 or 10 different drugs, because now they're taking something to treat the other side effect of that drug, which is that initial effect of the other drug. So it's a crazy allopathic system of pharmaceuticals that you get people on that, hamster wheel.
Well, and they teach this in pharmacy school because they'll say you have to use something for the compensation of the body. It's taught, they know, they just have to flip it around. It's like looking on the other side of the coin. No one's looking on the other side of the coin.
Not in allopathy, they're not, because they have this whole pharmaceutical industry going this way. This makes money, and this, man, it stops that symptom of that patient. And that's what that patient wants. Do they just want their symptom to go away?
Yes.
That's what they're taught. That's what the medical, propaganda teaches people. Let's just stop that symptom and I'll be fine.
Yep.
You're not fine, because then the body has to somehow bring itself back to balance. And if it does that, it often brings back that condition in a higher level. And they're like, hey, doc, this drug didn't work. I need something stronger. Right? Yeah.
Well, this is good. I was thinking if I had any other cases of this. It's every case, I think.
Every case, you need to be aware. You need to be aware of the dual effect. And even if you give an herb to somebody and they're saying, hey, doc, this wasn't strong enough, I need something stronger. It's like, wait a minute, where were we at when you took the herb or whatever you did? Even could be high dose vitamin C. Okay, right. So vitamin C can be suppressive. So it's like, okay, so am I using that to bring the body to a higher level of vitality? Or if I stop it, are the symptoms still there? Like, you can take somebody with severe seasonal allergies. You can totally suppress their allergies with high dose oral vitamin C. Hey, they don't have a runny nose at all. Did you bring them to a higher level of vitality, or did you just suppress the metabolism? So now the body's not reacting with the mucous membranes to that irritant. And now you've driven the disease condition deeper. Now they have a chronic cough, or they have a bronchitis that's coming up annually. Like, did you really help that? So think about what you did. And the way you'll know is if you stop that high dose vitamin C and you suddenly get all those symptoms back, you suppress that symptom and you didn't really cure that person and bring it up to a higher level of vitality. If they're dependent on that thing to control that symptom, that's your clue.
Because they're using it backwards. You're applying it backwards. Yeah.
They're playing it backwards. They shouldn't have to keep taking that herb. They shouldn't have to keep taking that remedy. They shouldn't have to keep doing that. Right? Yeah.
Now, I will say there's sometimes in practice that I found someone has a genetic anomaly. Something has manifested in their physical plane, and no matter how clean or healthy or vibrant they are, that genetic mutation, it doesn't go away for whatever reason. Right. And that might require something like type 1 diabetes. It might require something that preserves life. And absolutely have to do that.
Yeah. And that's okay. Just know it. Just understand how that law is being applied. And that is totally okay. And we can use these herbs as drugs if we need to. We can use nutrition as drugs if we need to. If that person needs that high dose IV vitamin C to treat their cancer, yeah.
Right.
So it's okay. Just understand where you're at in treating that person and using the laws of healing. So it's it's just sit back and look at it and kind of sort it out and say, okay, this person is dependent on this right now, but you know what? That's okay, because at least they're not doing this other thing. And if we can get them to a healthy state and a balanced state, and they're here, keep on it, keep on it. That's okay to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Not everybody can you bring up to optimum health. Not everybody, we all have our weaknesses. We all have our problems. We all have, our bodies are different, and we've gone through different things. We've gone through emotional things. We've gone through physical injuries. We've gone through things that the body has compensated for and needs help for, maybe long term. And that's okay.
Well, many of my colleagues who aren't necessarily nature cure will say, I'm meeting the patient where they're at. I'm meeting the patient where they're at. And I always say, okay, but if you remember what you're doing, you can meet the patient where they're at and still use things in a way that reestablishes health. You leave the person better than you found them. You can still do that.
That's right. And if you establish the package around it for healing, if you establish those parameters for healing to happen, that's all we're doing. And you don't know, maybe that person, is at this level of health. Just try. It doesn't hurt to try, because you don't know what that vitality can do. And suddenly, hey, they're up here and they've actually healed all these other symptoms. Mm-hmm. So all you do is try. You just bring about the therapeutics of healing, bring about good diet and hygiene and water and exercise and rest and just the basic things. It's amazing what can happen in people's lives. And you'd use the gentle therapies, use constitutional hydrotherapy, use glandular nutrition and herbal medicine and homeopathy. Use these gentle things we just did the law of minimum dose. So use minimum dosing of things, because less is more. And it's amazing what the body can do with just a little bit of support. And so never be afraid to try. It doesn't hurt to try it.
Always resist, never oppose. That's what Jim used to tell me. Don't oppose. Figure out what the body's trying to do and help it do what it's trying to do. After you make sure to preserve life, right? We're doctors. We always, number one, preserve life. But then when we get to the business of rolling up our shirt sleeves to be healers and to figure out what that body needs, always, that's always these mantras in my mind when I'm evaluating a case and coming up with a treatment plan. And I ask myself, will this leave the body better? Am I assisting the body or opposing it? Am I using the least amount? Like, I'm always asking myself these questions in a treatment plan.
Right. Yep. Yep. And, a lot of people come into us already on those other things, and they're wanting off of them. They don't want to be dependent on those drugs or things. And that's where you can meet them where they're at, and you can switch what they're doing to maybe more gentle. Okay, instead of this drug, let's use this high dose herb. Okay, you could do that. You can do the green allopathic approach, but in the meantime, use your other stuff too. Look at how to stimulate that vitality and decrease their toxemic load and open those emunctories and establish those laws of healing, those parameters of healing.
I'm so glad somebody that figured this all out. And that I ended up being in the line to receive this information, to use it, because I wasn't always like this, right? I was raised really allopathically because my dad was military. Mm-hmm. So I was military hospital trained. Then we moved overseas and I got to see what they were doing in different countries, Japan and Holland and Germany. It was completely different. When you went to see the doctor, they'd say, how are you sleeping? Are you eating fruits and vegetables? Are you staying hydrated? And I would think, well, those are great questions because why didn't anybody ever ask me that at my doctor?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I know. It is interesting to go to other countries. When I was in high school, I had the opportunity to go to visit Europe with the People to People High School Student Ambassadors Program, where we had 3 homestays. I think I was there in Europe 6 weeks. I had a week-long homestay in Germany, one in Austria, and one in Greece. And in Greece, my homestay sister, the girl I was staying with there, she's about my age, she twisted her knee while we were there. And we're on a little island called Thessaloniki off Athens. And so, I'm thinking this will be interesting. They're going to take her to the doctor. And I didn't know what doctors were like in Greece. And they knew my dad was a naturopath or a homeopath. And so we talked a little bit of homeopathy, but I was really shy. I was, a high school kid. And so I'm going with her to her doctor's visit. He was a homeopath on the island. And he gave her a remedy. And he told her to do a cold compress on her knee. And then every day she's to do sunbathing for 20 minutes at a time. She's to put her knee in the sunshine. That was the script.
Wow.
Out sunbathing on the knee, and and a cold compress at night, and this remedy. And in a day, and I'm thinking, oh, the whole week she's going to be laid up, and we're not going to be able to do the hikes or whatever. They wanted to take me to my uncle's place on the other part of the island, and we won't be able to do any of this. Well, in 3 days, we hiked across the whole island. We walked across the whole island to this other beach, spent the day swimming in the ocean, and then caught an old truck coming back to her village. And it was just a kick. Because I'm thinking, oh my God, she's not going to be able to, that's okay.
Was fine. She was fine.
Yeah, she was totally fine. The knee swelling went down in 24 hours. She was totally walking on it normal. And it was great. So it was really cool. I'm like, this medicine exists in other places. That's the other first time I'd seen it. So it was fun. Yeah.
All over the world.
Yeah.
Well, I think that time went by so fast.
Oh my gosh. I know, Eli, we can always just keep talking, and I love this. I appreciate you spending the time going through these axioms. And let's see, what's the next one here? The next one we're going to talk about is going to be number 8. This is one of my favorites, the law of conservation of energy.
Yeah. And I have cases to bring to that one.
Yeah, you do. You'd mentioned that before.
Yeah, so I'm excited.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one. Law of conservation of energy. So, all right, everybody, if you have questions, please put them in the chat, and we'll look at them and hopefully get back to you on these guys. I know we all have busy summer this summer. I hope everybody has a good one and stay healthy and safe, okay? Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for joining me today. For those of you interested in learning more about the teachings that are offered at the Naturopathic Medicine Institute and becoming a public member, they have both free and paid, visit thevitalnd.org. For those of you interested in my books and other offerings, I get emails and texts from y'all all the time. Here's just a short summary where you can find them. The Unvaccinated Child is a book. It's a resource guide for parents and caregivers to navigate childhood illnesses in a natural and healthy way. The intended group was the unvaccinated population, but it turns out it's an important resource for vaccinated as well, since we know vaccines do not necessarily prevent the illnesses. Smoke Rings is a book I wrote to help smokers. It is judgment-free. It doesn't matter to me what choice you make in your life, but if you're a smoker, love a smoker, used to smoke, continue to smoke, trying to quit, it doesn't matter. This book helps you be your healthiest version along any step of the way. My most recent book, Homeopathy, A Foundational Approach. This is a great book for someone, whether they're a complete beginner or they're already practicing homeopathy. It starts at the beginning and guides you through the basics and into first aid and acute practice and prescribing so you can start using homeopathy right away. My workshops and courses can be found at either ecampnd.com or longshadowsranch.net. Again, thank you for joining me. Thank you for your support and have a great week.